Many years ago, I was talking to a man who was a high-level diplomat, and he was involved in nuclear disarmament talks. One day he went to his daughter and told her regretfully that he was not going to be able to be present for her high school piano recital, which was very important for her. She was deeply disappointed and angry and walked away. And then he participated in an international conference which was broadcast on TV, and she tuned in to the program. And there she saw her father making the case of why nuclear disarmament was so important, and it dawned on her that perhaps she saw her father now in a different light. In fact, when he came home, she apologized and became interested in his work, and to this day works also in that field. This is what the resurrection does for us. It gives us a whole different perspective about who God is. Because so often we allow God to be just somewhat episodic as a great power that comes into our life. But Jesus reminds us that God is the one who sends him into the world to be the good shepherd, to have real stability with our lives, to the point where God, as we hear in the Gospel of John, when he sends Jesus, is sending a message that he pitches his tent in our midst. God is not a hired hand. It is not a part-time job for God to care about us, but God is with us in every moment of our lives. And also, we hear that the Good Shepherd knows his sheep. We hear elsewhere that he calls them by name. And it is a reminder that all of our lives, all of the history of our lives, the good times and the bad, are known to God. And we can bring not only our present difficulties, but also our past life in a spirit of thanksgiving and a sense of awe that God has been with us. When I was ordained a priest, I received some great advice from older priests. One priest told me that to be successful as a priest, he said, do the best you can and be good to the people. But another one gave me advice that I have always kept close to my heart. I came back from Rome with all sorts of studies under my belt, and he looked at me and says, you know, people don't care how much you know. They want to know if you know them. That is what the Good Shepherd does. He knows each one of us. He knows our stories, where in fact our lives have gone. And he's with us every step of the way. And it's good from time to time to think back on our lives of how the Lord has indeed been with us, because it gives us courage in the present moment that we suffer difficulty, that in fact he knows our history. And the final thing we hear about this Good Shepherd is that he has another flock, and he is going to give his life over and over again and raise up those who are his disciples that he calls. I think that should be very encouraging to all of us. Sometimes maybe we look at younger generations and we see maybe a waning of the practice of the faith in our families and our friends, and we wonder what's going to happen after we pass from this life. Will the church continue? Will our families have the deep faith that has instilled in us a spirit of hope about our lives? But it's a reminder, Jesus says, that he is one who takes care of that other flock beyond our time, and that he's willing to die and rise for them. There was a story that I heard from a Mother General some years ago, in which she visited one of the monasteries that was shrinking in size. There were only 3 or 4 members left, and she told them they probably would have to merge or close and merge with another group. And one of the sisters says, well, Mother General, surely our Lord would not allow this monastery to die. And Mother General looked at her and said, Sister, our Lord let his son die. It's a reminder that in fact death is not the end in any moment. And yes, maybe things change. Parishes close, monasteries do too, things change. But the Lord tells us that he is going to be with those future generations, and that he's willing to give his life, lay down the life for the sheep, and raise him up again, just as he did when he lived this earth and died on the cross. His death has perpetual, eternal value for future generations, and that should give us a sense of hope about our lives. So today, just as that young girl had a different perspective about her father, the resurrection gives us a different perspective about God. A God who's with us, who pitches his tent in our midst. A God who knows us by name and our whole history. But a God also who will be with future generations in a way that gives us hope, knowing that the Good Shepherd is one who rose from the dead in order to give us new life.